What I wanted to talk about today mainly is just how you can take this technology and take it to scale. My presentation is about a development that I got involved with in about 2014. It's called Norton Commons. It's actually in a suburb of Louisville, Kentucky. And that market hasn't been a heavy market for ground source heat pump technology in the past. There's been stuff installed there, but nothing to this scale. And this is probably one of three of the largest projects that are going on right now in the United States. One of them being in Whisper Valley, that's down in Austin, Texas, and then we have another one in Atlanta, Georgia, that are huge projects. And when I'm talking about scale, I'm talking about thousands of single residential homes that are using the geothermal heat pump technology. Just kind of talking about this development, again, this is in a suburb outside of Louisville, Kentucky. And this is really an urbanistic type approach. This community is 600 acres, 2,800 dwelling units, 500,000 square foot in commercial, and 290,000 in total civic area. But the whole point of this whole project is to build a community within a community, to have a work-life balance. And so that's kind of how this all spawned from the original developers and their thinking and their philosophy. So these homes are traditional style residential craftsman construction. It's kind of the first of its kind in this area of Louisville. You'll see houses that range anywhere from about 2,200 square foot all the way up to 5,000 square foot. You got a good mix of single-family residential houses in here. Again, it is a mixed-use community. There is commercial space. This would be a big retail area that's in the middle of the town square. Restaurants, bars, clothing stores, just all different types of things. It has its own church. It has several schools in the area, and that's 600 acre property. So let's get into how this ended up being geothermal, because in the beginning it wasn't going to be a geothermal heat pump community. But what they found after they went into phase one, they started finding that what they were using was not working. And the reason why it wasn't working is because of the setbacks on the houses were so tight. We're talking between 3 and 12 foot setbacks. And so as you can see in this photograph here, we have outdoor condenser units that are literally sitting right on top of each other. So what was going on is that these units were failing prematurely. And the reason why is because they were literally cross-contaminating with hot air. They were trying to pull all this heat out of the houses, and the units were working against each other because they were literally stacked right on top of each other. So a couple things. They were failing prematurely, and when they didn't fail, they were very inefficient. They just weren't able to have any efficiency to them. They had no capacity, so therefore the houses were very uncomfortable. It just never worked right. So when you had the inefficiency and then ultimately the premature failure, you had very unhappy homeowners. You know, they moved in with some expectation of a realistic electric bill. Well, they were getting astronomical electric bills, especially in Louisville, Kentucky, where if you've ever been there, it gets hot. So that was phase one construction. Close proximity, unit failure, noise. Again, when you have these tight setbacks, you have small front porches, back porches. That was the other problem. All of these condenser units that were running outside, literally, it made a bunch of noise. So when these people are in this urbanistic type community, everything's real tight. When they're sitting outside, they were listening to these outdoor condensers. And so therefore that created another problem. So what we did is I was given a presentation at the National Association of Home Builders annual board meeting and trade show, and given a presentation on heat pump technology. And that's where I met one of the managing partners of Norton Commons, and he came to me and he said, man, I really need to look at this technology. And he was like, we have energy efficiency problems, all the problems that I just described. He was like, how can you help us with a solution with this technology? And so next thing you know, I'm flying down there, we're going through it, and realistically how these things, a lot of people will always come to me and say, how did you get this all put together? How does this, it's like wedding planning. You literally have to plan this out. You have to vet the installing contractors. You have to educate the home builders that are actually in these projects. Typically, developers have home builders, a list of home builders that they'll bring in that they want to build in these type developments. So you have to go through and train, educate, so really, once you kind of get all that together and you build the infrastructure of all the people and the different subcontractors that need to be involved, you execute it, and it's worked very well. But again, the biggest part, especially with some of the challenges you guys are facing, you have to make sure that the infrastructure is there to be able to do it, and you have well-trained people. Okay, that's the bottom line. If they aren't trained, it can be a disaster. So phase 2, we came in and we started drilling out for the different structures that were going up. They were pre-planned structures. We knew the load calculations on them, so we knew what the loop fields were going to need to be as far as the design. We did 300 foot per ton, the vertical closed loop system on this project. And what we were doing literally is we were coming up through the garage floor. We would drill them. We would header everything together, and we'd run the pipes up through the garage floor, or we would do a penetration through the, some of these homes had basements, and so we would do a penetration through the basement. And then this would be the mechanical space. And again, these homes are all electric. They did plumb gas into these homes, but it's not being used. So it was a mandate by the gas company that they had to bring in their lines for them to get power, because the utility there, they both have the electric and the gas. So it's kind of a different animal from what we're dealing with down here in some markets. But so it was a mandate. So again, phase 2, no noise, 40 to 60% increase on HVAC, heating and cooling efficiencies, hot water per home. Unit service life increased. These units last about 24 years. There's case histories on it. Geothermal heat pumps last a long time. So again, unit service life is increased. There's no outside condensers, so therefore you don't have that noise. The other thing with outside condensers is you can also have theft that can happen. People steal these things. And they ran into that early on when they were in their construction phases, where these houses were being framed in rough-in stage, where people would come out and literally steal the condensers. So no outside condensers, happy HOA, the homeowner association's happy. And then there was a load leveling effect on the utility as far as electrical usage. So that's all I have on this project. If you guys have any questions, again, I planned this whole project for the developer. I put it all together, and if you have things that are coming up in your markets like this, I can definitely help you. So if you have questions, come and see me.